Seraphina, Peace in the Peril. Chapter 1. A Rusty Key. White smoke billowed from the thickly vegetated mountain. Quaint little houses and brightly colored flags lined the tan brick streets of Zakata. Children ran through the streets, and peasant girls stood in line to draw water from the well that sat in the middle of the picturesque town square. Mothers were cooking delicious, or oftentimes scanty meals at home, while men were off selling wares, working deep down in the mines, catching fish, or serving at the palace. The capital of Arinia sat right by the ocean, where ships set out to sea from the harbor, was especially active, making Zakata doubly active. Nearby, lush gardens surrounded the beautiful palace that glistened in the bright morning sunlight. Ornate fountains graced the courtyard, and cobblestone ground wound through the green gardens framed by moss-covered walls. An archway on the far end of the gardens provided a full view of the lurking volcano. A beautiful woman came rushing through the courtyard. Long black hair fell over her shoulders in thick jewel-covered braids and hung down about her silken gown. An entourage of servants trailed behind her, stirring puddles of water on the ground as they hurried by. "Tell her for the last time, I'm busy." A slim cheetah walked restlessly beside her mistress, its long tail switching back and forth, her eyes flickering to and fro. "But, Your Majesty, Princess Merida wants to speak to you about her estates," the messenger implored. The queen turned sharply, with a cold look. "I don't care about her estates. Tell her I'm in Marlandi and won't be back for a week." With that, she strode on until they approached the huge golden doors of the castle, where servants flew ahead to open it for her. The cheetah held back and crouched low to the ground, then turned away. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble vigorously. Guards came rushing from inside, and servants screamed as the right door flew off its hinges. Everyone was thrown about as if on a ship. Torches were put out, and fountains ceased to work, while a great rumbling and crashing noise sounded from behind them. The queen flew backwards onto the ground. Just as abruptly as it started, it all stopped. The servants straightened themselves, and guards quickly helped the queen up. "Are you all right, Majesty?" "That was a large earthquake," one exclaimed. The queen was pale and shaking. As she stood, she leaned against one of her servants for support. Shouts were heard behind them. "Help!" The wall had collapsed in one area, and a guard was tangled in the mess of stones. "Guards," she said, swallowing, "take support to the wall. We don't want anyone getting in." And she walked inside with assistance. Her servants and ladies in waiting all whispering incessantly, and one brought the cheetah in, even though she resisted. Queen Isabel closed her eyes for a moment, and then shook herself and was once again her cold-hearted, proud self. "Agnes, hurry down to the kitchen and see if the cook does not yet have food ready. Helen, order a soldier to summon the gold workers and carpenters to fix the door. And you, are you new?" she asked a young woman. "Yes, Your Majesty," she said, curtsying low. "I'm Lady Kyra." "Ah, Kyra. Tell the jester if he doesn't have some new trick learned by lunchtime, I'll send him to the dungeon." Kyra looked startled at this news, but when she saw that Isabel was serious, she quickly hurried off. Isabel glanced around at the rest of her ladies in waiting. "Rest of you can take a walk or something. There's something I need to attend to." The ladies took the hint and hurried off. Isabel took a deep breath, and with a look of amusement and an air of superiority, she left with her cheetah by her side. She went down a long hall, and taking a left, began going down a narrow flight of stairs, which, at the bottom, opened to 3 separate halls. Straight ahead, 2 rough soldiers were talking together about the earthquake. When they saw the queen, they straightened up immediately. "Your Majesty, would you like an escort?" One bowed low. "No," she said. "I already have one." She patted her cheetah on the head. They opened the door for her, and she went down another set of stairs, these ones cold stone and strictly practical. At the bottom, a dingy wooden door, very different from the others in the castle, opened to the part of the castle most didn't see. A dimly lit hall was lined with doors, each with sturdy steel bars on them. A ring of keys hung on the wall behind 3 soldiers, who sat at a table playing dice. As soon as they saw who it was, they quickly stood and bowed. "Did you feel the tremor, Your Majesty? The stones were loosened near us," one said with wide eyes. "Of course, imbecile. That's why I put beggars like you down here, so that you might die from falling stones during earthquakes," she said, her cruel smile instantly silencing the talkative guard. "Haven't seen you in a while, Your Majesty," another said. He scooted his chair back from the table and retrieved the ring of keys from the wall. "Which cell would you like?" "Third from the last, as usual." "You know, I've always wondered who is in that cell, Your Majesty." You visit them more than any other prisoner, he said with a curious smile as he handed her the key. Just don't go wandering too much, or you're liable to get your head chopped off, she replied coldly with a fierce gaze. He immediately lost his smile and bowed deeply. Of course, Your Majesty. I understand. She went down the hall. The cheetah briefly looked back at the soldiers and then followed. Groans reached her ears but not her heart as she silently trod the cold, filthy floor. At last she reached the door. She slid the key in its lock. Sunlight streamed through the open window of the cool room where Seraphina rested her head on her hand, her light blonde hair falling in tight ringlets down to her waist. She watched Sister Louise carefully write out the letters on the parchment. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever, Seraphina said, as Louise finished writing the verse. Sister Louise looked up from her writing. Do you understand what that passage means, Seraphina? Well, I won't be able to do some things in my own strength, but with God's help I can. And then the portion part means He is all I need. Seraphina's blue eyes shined as she said this. A bell began ringing in the distance, and Louise quickly put the quill back in the ink bottle while blowing on the still damp lettering. She straightened her coif instead. I hope to see you again tomorrow, Seraphina. May you keep growing closer to God, she said with a soft smile. Yes, thank you, Sister Louise, Seraphina said. She left the scriptorium, strolled through the cool halls of the convent, and then out into the hot world outside. Nuns drifted from the fields to the dining hall, leaving the abbey road lonely and barren. As she neared the gate, her stomach twisted itself in knots. I should have brought some servants. A duke's daughter shouldn't be out in the middle of nowhere unattended. Something had happened to me. Oh, I ought to be more thoughtful. I'm going to be kidnapped, and then what will I do, she thought. 2 fine horses pulling a carriage trotted into the confines of the abbey walls. She, recognizing the symbol on the carriage driver's tunic as they drew near, relaxed. Oh, good. I shouldn't get so anxious, she thought. The carriage stopped just ahead of her. The door opened. Her Grace asked for your assistance at the castle, an elderly lady said. Seraphina hopped into the carriage and sat opposite the servant. I'm glad she sent for me, but I trust all is well. As well as it can be, with 7 little ones getting into mischief. Her wrinkled face showed no sign of emotion, as she banged on the door as a signal to the driver to begin the short drive. Is Papa home? With quite the news to tell. Whole city's abuzz with it by now. Seraphina's beautiful pink gown was trimmed with ribbon, and her pink and brown brocade sleeves draped over her arms, barely showing her slim hand. I hope it's good news. You know we surely need some. Oh, to be sure it is. Just means more change, she sighed. And with change comes new problems that need to be solved. It's the way of life. They soon reached the powerful seaside fortress that Seraphina called home. Seraphina hurried to the family room and found her mother just as the servant had said. Cherizan, I need you to go check on your little brothers in the garden, Margaret said as Seraphina stepped in. Oh, I'm so glad you're back, Seraphina dear. Lottie, come here. The toddler ran to Margaret and was picked up. Do you need any help? Seraphina asked, taking Lottie from her and kissing her baby sister on the cheek. That would be great. I was just heading down to the garden to check on Timothy and Henry and see how Catherine was coming on her music lessons. Oh, I'd love to help Catherine with her lessons, Seraphina said, setting Lottie on the floor. Margaret smiled. Thanks. Perhaps at dinner you can tell me about your time at the abbey. All right, see you. Seraphina walked to Catherine's chambers. Catherine sat on a stool, trying to hold a cittern. Her teacher was behind her, manually moving her fingers. Seraphina closed the door, and the tutor threw her hands in the air. This girl will never learn to play if she is so stubborn. Perhaps you will persuade her. I'm going for some fresh air. She left the room, leaving Catherine sitting on the chair. It's so hard to figure anything out with her around, Catherine pouted, pushing her red braids back as Seraphina took the instrument. You're not supposed to figure it out when there's a tutor, Catherine, she said, walking up the stairs to the bed, elevated high off the ground. You're supposed to listen, and they'll tell you how to do it. She sat down and began softly strumming the cittern. The sweet melody brought a wistful sigh from Catherine's lips. I wish I could play as well as you, Sarah. You will one day, I promise, Seraphina said with a smile, as she got up and gave the instrument back to her sister. You just have to keep practicing and listening to your tutor. Okay. Seraphina slipped out the door, hearing Catherine beginning playing around with chords she was learning. She slipped through the hall to her room, but on the way was drawn to a discussion taking place in the study. She paused just before the doorway. It's a very good step for them, and I think it will benefit all parties. Peace! Peace! How can they even think of it? They stole our land, and now they're offering the white flag like they've done nothing wrong. Calm down, Leonardo. Let's put the past aside and consider how this will change things for the better. Seraphina turned around, pursing her lips. I ought not to spy on Papa, she thought, even though I know he will tell all of us at dinner. Despite her resolve, she caught the last words as she left. Peace alone will mean a freedom of commerce and travel that we haven't had for centuries. Seraphina clasped her hands together, a smile splitting her face. Oh, peace. I can't wait to tell Amorous. Nope. Try again. Derik sat in the great hall at the long table opposite a black-haired boy, his eldest grandson. Stefan was staring at the 3 maple bowls on the table between them. That one? He pointed at the bowl to his left. Good, Derik said, a smile forcing itself onto his face. He took the 3 bowls again and switched them around, Stefan watching closely. The door creaked open and Adrian waddled over. Grandpa, me too? You're too little, Adrian, Stefan said. Oh, he can come and watch now, can't he, Stefan? Derik said. Fine. Adrian! A voice called down the hall. The little boy ran over to Derik. Come back here, Adrian! The door flew open, and a maid burst into the room, out of breath. Oh, your majesty, she said, quickly bowing. I don't like her. She says naughty boy, Adrian said, scrunching up his nose at the maid. Leave us, Derik said to the maid. Of course, your majesty, she replied, backing out. Oh, and in the future, refrain from calling him naughty. It's not your place. Yes, your majesty. She quietly closed the door behind her. Adrian climbed up into Derik's lap. I like you. Derik's face broke into a smile, the crow's feet at his eyes wrinkling up. It's in that one, Grandpa, Stefan said, finally coming to a conclusion. What's in it? Adrian picked up the bowl, revealing the silver coin inside it. I'm right, Stefan said, grabbing the coin. I want it. Adrian crawled onto the table, trying to grab it from Stefan. Stefan held it out of the little boy's reach, a grin on his face. You can't have it. It's mine. Derik frowned and thought, that's, shall I say, naughty. Oh well, I've been a lot naughtier than Stefan, so who cares, Derik laughed to himself, grabbing another silver coin out of his waist pocket. Here you go, Adrian, your very own. Adrian's eyes lit up. Grabbing it, he slid from the table and ran out of the room. Stefan stuck out his bottom lip. Why does he get one for free when I worked hard for mine? Just then, a sharp rap was heard at the door. Your Majesty, King Derik, 2 gentlemen would like a word with you, Bjorn, Derik's servant said. Come in, Derik said, straightening his gold chain. 2 large knights in heavy armor entered the room. Derik stood. State your business. King Derik, we are come from Katoya. The knight trailed off and cleared his throat, nodding his head towards Stefan, who was staring at them. Oh, you better run along, Stefan, Derik said. Stefan slipped out of his chair, past the 2 knights with a sigh, then closed the door behind him. Here, let's sit, Derik invited. The 3 sat down. So who are you? I'm Sir Dane. You might remember me from the battle against Earl Cliven. Ah yes, good to see you, Sir Dane. Please continue. Lord Bryce sent Sir Gerald and I over to inform you about some disturbing news. He paused, glancing at the other knight. Planek has recently refused to pay tribute. What do you mean refused? Derik said. Have they refused by word or by military might? The door opened and blonde-haired Prince Curtis stepped in. I heard we have visitors from Kataria. What's the news? He came over and sat beside Derik. Planek stopped paying tribute, Derik said. Planek? I didn't know they paid us tribute, Curtis said, looking from Derik to the 2 knights. They've paid tribute to Kataria ever since King Vladimir was out conquering, Derik said in a low tone, watching the 2 knights' expressions. They glanced at each other. Derik took a deep breath. Have they only said that they wouldn't, or have they responded with their military? They have officially declared that any more messengers or collectors sent will be put to death, so Gerald said. Derik tightened his jaw. Perhaps they hadn't seen what type of man their current emperor is. A few thousand soldiers might make them change their minds. Don't you think so, Curtis? Well, is the money we receive for them that important? How much does Kratari make off of them? Curtis asked the 2 knights. I wouldn't know, your highness, Sir Gerald said. 500 coins every, what would you say, 6 months? Serdane answered. Yes, it's a rather nice sum, Derik agreed. Curtis straightened his ring. If you consider, though, the cost of going to war, making the ships, gathering our army, and making the right weapons, it's a one-time cost, though, Serdane said. But if we lose, we've wasted all our money and energy. On the other hand, if we focused our energy and money on, say, mining silver in the Bulwark and Mountains, there would be more of a chance of gaining money. That's not the point, Curtis. If we don't show them who's boss, other countries will think we're weak, Derik said, pounding his fist into the table. We must punish them. It would interrupt our other plans. Remember our plans for a summit? And why do you say we must? In that case, it seems like they're forcing us. But if we're truly powerful, don't we have a choice? We do have a choice, and I say we choose to keep our little source of extra money, even though it costs us. If we win, as we surely will, it's a sure form of money, unlike the gamble of the silver mines, Derik said. But you see, it's quite as much of a gamble if... The door swung open. Prince Curtis and your Majesty, come quickly, the servant said, her face pale. Adrian fell down the stairs. Curtis leaped up, heading out the door. Just give them a warning for now, Derik said in a low tone, rising. We will see that it is done, your Majesty. I'm honored to have talked with you, Serdane said, leaving the room with Sir Gerald. Derik hastened to the stairs, his concern rising. I hope the little fellow isn't hurt. Here I am talking about war and punishment while Adrian could have a broken leg. He arrived at the stairs to see Adrian running around and laughing. He's fine, Father, Curtis said with a smile. Don't go giving us such a scare, Juliana, Curtis's wife, scolded Adrian. Adrian looked towards Derik. Grandpa, I lost my coin when I fell, he said with a pouty face. Derik smiled and handed him another. There you go, little one. Juliana shook her head. You don't have to spoil him, your Majesty.